All right, good morning, everybody. Quick sound check here and screen check. Make sure we are on the road. If anybody's listening, let me know in the chat if you can see this or hear this, please. Everyone hear me and see me okay? Good. Awesome. Perfect. Well, happy Friday, guys. Hope you're having a wonderful start to the week. I'm excited to really get on here every Friday and, kind of just walk you guys through my prep process and, kind of identify and reveal how to find the setups and, you know, really how to prep and find the best setups for the week and for the day. So we're going to hop in here, guys, close the week out strong, talk about a little bit what happened this week, and more importantly, what I'm focusing on for this morning. So, as always, I like to start here with the overall market, and I personally always chart the futures. So that's ES, YM, and good old NQ. If we take a look this morning, we've had a really, really strong week with the market making that very strong bounce on Sunday to start the week, and then working its way all the way up to all-time high. So obviously here to end the week, we want to be very patient and we want to be very cautious. There's been plenty of opportunity riding this market all the way to all-time high. And now we just need to see, do we break through all-time high like we did yesterday? Do we continue or do we slow down and take a little bit of a break? But if we hop in here, one of the bigger things to focus on is going to be a daily squeeze, if you're familiar with the setup for ES here. So if we take a look and make sure my screen's not lagging. Here we go. So if you take a look, guys, at this daily squeeze, the market holding up this week really kind of saved it from firing a downside squeeze, popping it right back into this upside squeeze. So again, we're on a few green days here, so I'm not sure if we just blow through the highs, but keep in mind we do have that daily squeeze and we do have that compression that very well could continue higher. So for today, I think it's very straightforward, guys. See if we take, a little bit of time off, see if we go sideways a bit, or just see if this daily squeeze really starts to continue. If we hop back in here intraday, just to cover a few key levels, the biggest is obviously our prior all-time high here of about 42.5825. This was our prior all-time high that we kind of cracked yesterday, and now we're pretty much just sitting on it consolidating to start the session. If you take a look at the left here on my board, you'll see the three indexes on my watch list, ES, YM, and NQ. One big thing we want to note is who is technically leading right now. And when I say who's leading, I mean who's up the most, who's trying to show us strength. And right now this morning, the leader is YM. And let's hop right into that and talk about potentially why. But before we move on here, just simply focus on that all-time high, see if we hold these levels below, and then we'll go from there. But if we take a look at YM, this has been truly the lagging index all week, where it bled for 2 weeks straight before it made its bounce here. So making its bounce was very critical. And one big thing that I was focusing on was bouncing back to the daily 21 EMA and also to the 50-day simple moving average. This was really, the level that YM needed to bounce back through in order to kind of catch up here with the market. It's been led by technology. Technology's made a new all-time high with NQ, and we were really waiting for YM to start to play along here. So that's exactly what we're seeing this morning with, NQ pretty much flat, ES pretty much flat, and YM trying to lead the day. So be mindful here, guys, depending what stocks you watch. If you do watch tech stocks, they just might not get some love today. They really do need to buy YM, and that's what we're seeing here this morning with it trying to lead the way. So very simple, pay attention to this 34083 and this 33970. As long as YM holds above this key zone, I'm expecting it to work its way higher, potentially up towards this 34,400 and then that 34,600. But as long as they hold above the daily mean and the 50 here, we could expect some rotation which will then take away from technology. So if we take a peek at technology, all right, they have had a monster week. They've done nothing but go higher. They've been going higher for pretty much a month straight almost. And this is why we just want to be mindful, guys. This has led the market higher. This is what's kind of leading the way. But we do at some point need to see YM get some love and some rotation back into it. So that's what we're seeing here today. So to wrap up our market talk, guys, and we'll hop into a few setups, this is really the big focal point where usually you want to see the markets move together. But when tech leads the way and YM is down, we're going to see some discrepancy. So we can see NQ go down a bit, YM lead the way, and we'll see if ES kind of just stays afloat or if it starts to explode. Hope that makes sense, guys. Let's hop into a few setups here. And I apologize if the screen quality is not the best. My first time on YouTube here, so bear with me. But a few good setups I want to talk about for today. The first setup is Google. So if we take a look at Google, really has had a pretty quiet week. They've trickled a little bit higher with technology, and they tried to break their all-time high on Wednesday, and they really didn't make any traction. They broke that key level, and then they slipped right back underneath it. However, they're coiling. They're slowly giving us a decent-looking hourly squeeze here. And one important thing to note is a piece of news that they had last night. So if you look at the bottom left here at the news tab, you'll see that Google actually delayed their cookie removal until late 2023. So if you have no clue what that means, they're not talking about, getting rid of chocolate chip cookies. They're talking about getting rid of the ability to track customers and then sell and use that data for advertising purposes. Google threatened to kind of take that away. However, coming out and saying that they're delaying that till 2023, to me is actually really good bullish news. More cookies equals more ads equals more revenue. More revenue grows the company. So we'll see, guys, if this is a catalyst that can kind of accelerate Google today. As of now, Google hasn't really had a pre-market print yet. But one way to check how it might open is to simply look at the level 2 to get a sense of the bids. So right now, Google closed at 24.50, and our current bids on Google are currently still around 24.50. So as of now, we have an hour and a half until market opens. We'll see. I would like to see this thing gap up slightly, and if it does just open flat, want to be a bit patient. But I do like the hourly squeeze, and again, technology might not lead the way today, but there are some good setups still. So for Google here, gonna focus, guys, on playing. Let me drag in my watch list here. I like to focus on playing same-day expiration options. So I call those 0 days. They always have a lot of volatility. They can be dangerous, but they also can be really, really fun. So I recommend, guys, being smart today, sizing down, and understanding you don't need to allocate a lot of risk to potentially make a good amount of money. So for today, going to focus on playing Google 2470 calls for today's expire. If this squeeze starts to fire, if it continues to hold this 2446, it can take a shot through its old all-time high and its new all-time high that was set here on Wednesday. So again, want to be very mindful that tech might not get any type of love today, but we do have an hourly squeeze. We got some decent news. See if there's a reaction and if Google can work its way higher. Currently has an ATR of about 34 points. Another important thing I like to focus on when it comes to prepping is we want to get a sense of how high can this thing actually go. So if you take a look at this little tool that you can use, it kind of helps you plot where's 34 points away. If you take a look at it right now, that gets us towards 2484, which is a huge push if and when it can get through this all-time high. So again, it might just squeeze, it might just chop here, but if it can get some momentum, if tech can get a little rotation, I love these Google 2470 calls, looking for that breakthrough all-time high. Really good setup here. Next setup, guys, is Netflix. So if we take a look at Netflix, and I just want to clear this one up before we talk about it. This has been a really, really good setup in the making, where first off, it's been a laggard tech, meaning they've bought in all of technology besides Netflix. They've bought an Amazon off the lows. They've bought an Apple off the lows. They bought Roku. They bought Shop. Pretty much everything besides Netflix. However, Netflix is probably going to make its catch up next. If you take a look here, guys, it's just been bottoming and kind of basing and giving us a really nice daily squeeze, which is slowly but surely starting to fire here. And if we take a look, we also have a 2-day squeeze. So we got the daily, and we got a really nice tight 2-day squeeze here, which is seeing the shift in momentum, and it's looking like it wants to fire. One big thing that I want to point out is this indicator called the Ichimoku cloud, which always gives some really nice support and resistance levels. So obviously we all can see this massive gap on Netflix that it needs to fill from 518 all the way up to that 546. That's the final kind of catalyst here. We have all the squeezes, and then we have the gap fill. Well, finally, guys, as you can see, it broke that gap fill yesterday, but it stopped right at what's called this daily cloud top, which currently sits at about 521. This is going to be the biggest, kind of hardest level here for Netflix. However, if we take a look this morning, they're gapping right above that key level with some massive strength. And the reason being is because they got upgraded here by Credit Suisse to an outperform, and they announced a price target of 586, really just sending this thing right through. Let me show you the drawing setback right through that 521 level. So we got the gap through it. We got a really nice upgrade. Let's see if this is enough to continue to fire the squeeze. And now again, we want to be mindful here, team. If Netflix gaps up and we don't see any type of rotation into technology today, Netflix might come all the way back down. But for now, I love the upgrade. I love the squeezes. I love it clearing these levels. Let's see how high it can go. So for Netflix today, again, be very careful, guys, chasing this thing. But if we can get a retest at this 521 for an entry as the market opens, that's going to be really, really ideal. I don't know if we'll get it, but it is one thing that I will be watching, is that pullback towards 521 and then buy the dip, looking to get back up at least towards these pre-market levels. If for some reason we just, gap and go through pre-market levels, I am a little bit okay chasing, because it does have a daily squeeze, which 9 out of 10 times, once they start going, they just can't be stopped. So give it a little gasoline here with the upgrade. This definitely could be a really, really good setup that explodes today. So again, watch this zone. This little 521 and that gap fill trigger of 518.95. You can just call it 519. If we hold there and we get back through that pre-market HOD, if we just check out Netflix ATR of about 10 points. All right, this is, again, guys, why we want to be careful. It's already pretty much gapping up in ATR. So again, be mindful. It can see more, but usually ATR is a really good compass. The only things that kind of make us go through ATRs are news and squeezes. So we have both today. So again, we can go higher. Just be mindful here, team. Personally, one of my favorite setups. And for this one, guys, if we just take a look at the Netflix chain for today, really want to focus on, basic strikes here. Going to focus on the 525s if we get a nice dip. And if we don't get a dip, I think the 530s will be a nice little call to focus on. And you also can consider, guys, looking at next week's if you want to take away a little bit of the volatility, and also if you want to potentially position yourself for, this swing that the daily squeeze could cause. We get the gap fill way above at 546. I don't expect us to fill it today, but it is something that could continue into next week with little to no stop. So definitely want to look to get a piece here. Next setup, guys, is Tesla. So if we take a look at Tesla on the daily chart, it's been a really, really nice one. We had this wedge forming from all-time high, which gave us some really, really nice downside resistance. This is one name that truly hasn't done anything this year. It's gotten its butt kicked, and finally started to base. So you guys can see that downtrend from all-time high. You can see the slight little recent trend from the lows, and then boom, we finally have a good break the other day. And then yesterday we gapped right above that wedge and continued to hold. So if we take a look here, guys, not only are we breaking that wedge and kind of gapping above this daily cloud, but we're also firing a daily squeeze. So there's multiple variables here that could just lead to Tesla making a higher push, continuing its journey higher. The first target I was looking for yesterday was 690, and Tesla took that out really nicely. So if we hop in here today, just take a look at it pre-market. All right, we got that pop yesterday through 690. We pretty much worked our way up towards that psyche level of 700 and then rolled right back over. If we take a look this morning, we are slightly set to gap up a bit. So this is one name that I want to pay attention to. If it could continue to hold this, 678 base, which is yesterday's pre-market high, you can see we kind of bounced at it yesterday and even held it overnight. If we can just get back through 690 and through the HOD, I think we have a really good shot of just taking out 700 and continuing a strong push. ATR here about 24 points for Tesla. So 24 points, guys, gets us a little through that 700. So ideally, we could kind of buy this low. Maybe we get a retest of that 678. And at that point, team, I'll be looking to trade the 700 calls for today's expire on Tesla. You can also consider next week's 750s if you like a swing trade within the squeeze. But for now, I think those are really, two good strikes to focus on. You can add more if you look at the chain once it opens. You always want to be a little flexible of, what you play on a Friday. Don't go too far out. Don't play too cheap. The 700s had a ton of volume yesterday, and we should have a good shot of at least testing that level today. So personally, that's what I'll be watching. And the next setup here, guys, is Amazon. So if we take a look at Amazon, this is by far, one of the weaker tech names. And not as of recent, it had a really, really good push, and it worked its way up towards all-time high. However, it kind of failed here on Tuesday, went sideways on Wednesday, and took a really nice drop on Thursday, pretty much leading, technology right back down. So this is one, guys, that I just want to slightly pay attention to. Just in case the market starts to drop, if we start to see true selling in technology rather than it just holding up and going sideways, I think Amazon might have a really easy drop towards 3,400, which is just something I want to keep an eye on. If we take a look at the daily chart, this thing is very extended, and it could, benefit from a reversion to the mean back down towards that daily 21 EMA, which is currently a little below that 3,400 if you check out here on a daily chart. So again, we're kind of topping out here. It very well could hold that 3,450 range like it did yesterday. But if it does break down, if you look left, we pretty much just lose it here. Sellers really, really take control. Not saying it happens again, but it is a good possibility that this drop happens again at the same spot. So back in here intraday, want to keep it, tight. Don't want to force this one because it's Amazon. But if it can't get back through its pre-market HOD here of 3,463, looking for that breakdown through yesterday's low and then pushing towards that 3,400, which at this point, all I'm going to focus on, guys, is the 3,400 puts for Amazon. They're decently priced. They can explode, especially if you buy them a little bit higher here with the hopes that this thing potentially goes a bit lower. Now, again, guys, be mindful. If it doesn't break that yesterday's low, there's a really good chance of bouncing, especially if Google and Netflix lead the way. But again, if we see YM rotation leading and we see tech, going down, Amazon showed its weakness yesterday. Could easily show its weakness again today. So just something to keep in mind and keep in your watch list for a downside setup. We always want to be ready for both. And then the final setup here, guys, is Snowflake, SNOW. So this one's pretty straightforward and pretty simple and might not even happen today, but at least you guys can carry this into next week. So Snow really hasn't done much at all. However, it's setting up a really, really nice and tight daily squeeze. We've gone from red dot, red dot, red dot, all the way to finally having a few orange dots in the making. So obviously nothing's happened with this name. It's been quiet. It's waiting for some love. Let's see when it happens. But if and when it breaks through that 256, I think it has a really good shot towards 280. And now granted, that's a little more than their ATR, so I don't expect it to hit that today if it breaks out. Anything's possible. We always want to be realistic and watch its ATR, which is about 10 points. So, through that 560, we can expect 570. We close at 250, so getting to 260 is a big journey. But a few strikes to watch here, guys, on Snow will be the following. Like I mentioned, you can focus on this week's expiration before these daily squeezes. You also want to consider having some options up for next week as well. So for snow, guys, gonna watch today's expire 255 calls, and then I'm gonna focus on next week's 260 calls. Both have a lot of good volume. Both offer some really good risk reward. We'll see if 256 can break and if this squeeze can fire. But that's my thoughts, guys. Keeping it very tight and strict today. So again, my main focus is Google, Netflix, Tesla, Amazon, and Snow. Be mindful of any rotation, possibly, out of tech and into YM, or maybe even back out of YM and back into technology. But that's this, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Remember, if you want to hear more of this and see my thoughts on a daily basis, you can sign up for our newsletter. The link will be in the description, so check that out, guys. And I'll be doing this every Friday. So hope you enjoyed. Use these thoughts, guys, to get a little bit better and close the week out strong.